Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, December 14th. It is now 10:41 a.m. This is a JGO public meeting. The agenda was published for this meeting on December 2nd. And in the chamber today, this morning, we have the Vice Chair, Representative Bloss Jonathan Atto. We have Representative Edwin Propst, Representative Christina Sablan, Representative Donald Manglona, Representative Vicente Camacho, Representative Richard Linares, and of course we have our legal counsel, Mr. Joe Tyrone, and the legislative assistant, Mr. Cam Nicholas. If there are no objections from the members, I would like to recognize the vice chair to make the motion to accept today's agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Motion to accept today's agenda so we can proceed with today's hearing. I so move.
A motion has been made to adopt today's agenda, and it has been seconded. Are there any discussions on the motion? There are no objections raised. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Today's agenda is duly adopted. Before proceeding with statements, I just wanted to remind everyone to please adhere to the COVID-19 protocols in place in the Bureau and to please turn off your cell phones. We will get right into today's meeting, and I would like to recognize Representative Christina Sablan.
Madam Chair, before we move on with today's agenda, can we just allow for public comment? Should there be any members from the public to make a statement?
Thank you, Vice Chair. The floor is now open for public comments. I also want to recognize the presence of Representative John Paul Sablan and Representative Ralph Yumo, who joins us in the chamber today. I see that there are no public comments today, and at this time I would like to recognize Representative Christina Sablan.
Thank you, and good morning, Madam Chair, good morning, colleagues, and good morning to the members of the viewing public. If the governor had come in to testify under oath today, we would have asked him to explain his actions. We would have asked him to explain his spending of public funds. We would have asked him to address what appears to be a pattern of wasteful and extravagant abuse of government resources. We would have asked him about his first class and business class travel at government expense, why he continued to fly premium class despite the law that prohibits that, and despite the advice, the warnings from finance and the lieutenant governor that he needed to stop. Why he thought it was okay to request and authorize first class and business class travel for his spouse, who is not a government employee, to accompany him. We would have asked him to explain why he and his wife flew approximately 16 times at taxpayer expense in the fiscal year after Super Typhoon Yutu. How he barely stayed on island in the weeks and months after our islands were completely destroyed. And how during this same period, while most people were suffering here without adequate shelter, power, or water, he was traveling, dining, and shopping extravagantly at taxpayer expense. We would have asked him to explain trips that appear to have been personal or political in nature with the very thinnest of justifications. A supposed meeting off island with unnamed potential business partners that looks like it was really just a campaign stop. A supposed meeting off island with federal officials that looks like it was really about going to a softball game. Altogether, Madam Chair and colleagues, since becoming governor, Ralph Torres has taken over 100 trips by plane and cost the government approximately $500,000 for himself alone, not including the travel expenses of all the people who accompanied him. He has also gone out on at least 85 trips by boat, either on police search and rescue boats or accompanied by DPS boats and police officers. Many of these outings appear to be fishing trips, recreational trips to Managaha and the Northern Islands, cruises at sunset and midnight. Taxpayers paid for the fuel, thousands of gallons. Taxpayers also paid for the entourage of police officers who accompanied him each time. The boating trip that really takes the cake was the governor's 3-week expedition to the Northern Islands that we all paid for last summer in the middle of the pandemic. He had DPS search and rescue boats, utility vehicles, and police officers go with him. He had DLNR send a boat and staff. He had generators from Homeland Security. He had MVA charter the boats and pay for meals, apparently for everybody. And MVA only found out later that these expenses were coming out of their budget, not the governor's office. The government paid for all that fuel. Deer were released into the wild illegally. The beach was set on fire. Fuel was stored on bare ground without containment. And poaching in protected places appears to have occurred. And he called it an ecotourism promotion. There was nothing eco about it, and not a single tourist came as a result. But what we did see, what we all saw, was plenty of video footage of Governor Torres on vacation with family and friends, fishing, eating, and enjoying our beautiful Northern Islands at taxpayer expense. With all these travels by air and sea, when did the governor ever find time to govern? We would have asked him how many credit cards he has, and to account for the 26 cards found among the hundreds of receipts he submitted to finance. We would have asked him why cards that appear to belong to other people are among his requests for reimbursement. We would have asked him how he could justify reimbursing himself for thousands of dollars for things like rifle cases and camping gear, expensive scotch that he may or may not have brought to a private party, a car battery for his personal van, a family's birthday lunch that he wasn't even part of, but that he claimed as a meeting. We would have asked him to account for all the electronics, all the hardware and yard equipment like wheelbarrows and chainsaws, the coolers and sporting goods that he claimed for reimbursement as office expenses. These were things that never actually made it back to the office, according to the testimonies we heard and the office inventory sheets we reviewed page by page, painstakingly, with the special assistant for administration. We would have asked him to explain why he chose to reimburse himself for thousands of dollars in utility expenses at his private residence, rather than go through the established process that the lieutenant governor and their predecessors have used. And that is to simply hand the billings over to the special assistant for administration to process for payment by finance. The governor claimed in a recorded interview to have borrowed $6,700 from loved ones in cash to pay CUC on one particular occasion. Who are these loved ones? And has he accepted gifts like that from them before? Governor Torres got reimbursed for that the very next day, which is unusually fast for finance, as most people who deal with the government would know. But if the governor could get finance to cut him a check so quickly, why didn't he just get finance to pay CUC directly in the first place? It doesn't make sense. What also doesn't make sense are the tens of thousands of dollars that taxpayers have paid in utilities at the governor's private estate. Hundreds of thousands of gallons of water a month, thousands of dollars in electricity, multiple meters, including meters that fed the commercial piggery on his property. When this body tried to prohibit in the Budget Act this benefit that finance keeps paying out without any legal basis whatsoever, the governor vetoed it. Even after all these outrageous abuses came to light, the excessiveness of his water and power usage, Governor Torres still sees this benefit as his entitlement. So many people, colleagues, struggle month to month to pay their CUC bills and avoid disconnection. And we continue to pay the governor's CUC bills too. We would have asked him to explain and account for all these things and many more. He has said time and again, all we had to do was talk to him, ask him directly. But when push came to shove, he has refused to appear and answer questions under oath. He has invoked immunity and privilege for himself, his staff, his DPS commissioner, without legal merit. He has allowed his secretary to be held in contempt. So much for nothing to hide. I yield at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Sablan. At this time, I would like to recognize Representative Richard Linares.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Audience on the Facebooks and so forth. Good morning. With that started this investigation or this hearing sometime mid part of this year, and then he could have asked to come in and meet us, but most of the time he ignored us. And then this morning you go on air that you wanted to have a meeting with the chairwoman, and you feel like you were getting a treatment, an unfair treatment, an unlawful political hearing. Governor, why are you not here now? The people of the Commonwealth wants to hear you. I yield back. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Representative Lizama. At this time, I would like to recognize Representative Donald Manglona.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, colleagues and the people of this Commonwealth. The past several months has been a challenging experience in the efforts to get answers and clarifications to complaints of corruption, abuse of power, and flagrant spending of the governor of the CNMI. We spent hours reviewing evidence and interviewing witnesses to address these serious concerns because it is the responsibility of each one of us in this legislature to uphold the checks and balance of which are an integral part of democracy. Not one individual or government shall be supreme and immune to consequences for actions that violate any laws. The actions of this body are not driven by these accusations of political gains. The actions of this body derive from sincere concerns over the well-being and dignity of this Commonwealth. And while we are coming to a close, putting the issues brought to the committee to rest, the one person under the subject of investigation is the only one who can explain these allegations. We've heard from numerous witnesses and shed light on the actions taken by the governor in which the people had no idea of what was going on. While people were being disconnected for a $20 bill, the governor was living lavishly by getting its utilities paid for by you, our taxpayers, in excess of $15,000 a month. And this is just 1 month out of many. While the people were being furloughed, the governor has taken several trips, with even one trip that can fund a salary of one employee for the entire year. Now, how could we turn a blind eye on these excessive abuse of government resources that are meant to support our people? It is our duty as elected officials, and not just members of this JGO committee, to address the concerns from our constituents. Finally, we ask the governor to come before this committee to give us the truth But where is he? He continues to hide, deflect, and cause delays to distract the people instead of answering questions that provide clarity or reveal a concern that needs to be addressed. If he truly has nothing to hide, then why is it difficult for him to stand before this body, before the people of this great commonwealth, to clear his name? In closing, Madam Chair and colleagues, I just want to thank this body and those who work tirelessly in this effort to fight corruption. I also want to thank our people who have stepped forward, shared their concerns, and provided their testimony. It is important that we hold our government to such high standards and hold anyone who attempts to lower these standards by abusing power accountable. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield at this time.
Thank you, Representative Manglona. At this time, I would like to recognize Representative Vicente Camacho.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, colleagues and the viewing public. It has been a long, difficult, and challenging few months throughout the JGO hearing. We are finally towards the end of the investigation, and I believe that what the JGO committee has done is public purpose. The JGO committee have maintained their composure and stood their grounds despite all the resistance. During this investigation, we were able to showcase the powers of the legislature as one of the three branches of government with equal powers and with different fiduciary powers. There was no animosity, no witch hunting, and no political vendetta when the JGO committee is upholding public purpose. All elected officials are held to the same oath to uphold the Constitution of the CNMI and its laws and to address public purpose. The JGO committee was challenged. The JGO committee members were individually challenged, but we were able to move forward with purpose. If there were any doubt about the role of the JGO committee, the investigation hearing is to prevent and publicly address fraud, waste, and abuse within our government. Understanding the criminal side effect of fraud, waste, and abuse is key to a well-functioning and purposeful and productive government. To the viewing public, thank you for your patience and support, and we hope to move forward and purposely serve you. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Camacho. At this time, I would like to recognize Representative Edwin Propst.
Thank you, Madam Chair and colleagues. I want to start by saying that I'm disappointed that Governor Torres chose not to come and appear before us today. I'm disappointed with all the bravado, all the machismo, all the talk, all the chest pumping that he has nothing to hide, and saying that they haven't called me. They haven't called me in. And then we did. We were very generous and understanding. And this body, led by our chairwoman, Selena Roberto Babalta, has been kind to and civil to everyone that has shown up, all our witnesses. Look no further at the tape, the live broadcasts, how we were civil. And the craziest thing about this whole long and lengthy process is that we've heard it's taking too long. As if at somehow, some way we were at fault for doing the people's work. But the stalling, the the gamesmanship, the different tactics that were used. That wasn't created by the chairwoman nor this body. It was created by the governor. The witnesses, which were surprising, were told time and time again by our chairwoman repeatedly that you were not the subject of this investigation, that you were here to give us some answers to our investigation of the governor. Yet each of them would come with an attorney, as if somehow, of course it is their right, but as if somehow we are trying to go after them. And that just was not the case. In fact, from my recollection, the only witness that appeared without an attorney was Lieutenant Governor Arnold Palacios, who came and spoke from his heart and spoke the truth. If every single witness had done that, this would have been expedient and probably a lot faster, this process. But it was dragged on for different reasons, not attributed to this committee. Madam Chair and colleagues, and those who are watching, I want to remind you of something that was told to me and I keep close to my heart. It is that public service requires sacrifice. We make sacrifices all the time, by salary alone. We have a governor who makes $120,000 a year, 4 times the salary that any of us make. He also has incredible benefits and entitlements, as Representative Tina Sablan had mentioned with regard to CUC. Some bills that are as high as $16,000 a month. Something that does not work well in a commonwealth where over half of our people are indigent, are poor, are considered poor along federal poverty guidelines, is when a politician enriches him or herself. And I don't see how that is possible when you are a public servant. How do you become rich in politics? But even with all that money that the governor may have, he still chose to get $200,000 worth of attorneys on taxpayer dime. Why would somebody that has nothing to hide, who feels that he can come in and speak to us, just like he did on KKMP with Gary Sword, need $200,000 worth of attorneys? And even with such powerful and well-paid attorneys, still does not come in today. $200,000 worth of attorneys, and he couldn't even show up to tell us why he won't speak to this body. Speaking on a radio show with questions that are already prepared for him is not the same as him coming in and answering the questions that this body has. Only he can answer those questions. Madam Chair, colleagues, the suffering continues in the Commonwealth, as each and every one of us knows. My colleagues, all of you know the calls that we get on a daily basis. There are many who still haven't gotten PUA. There are also those who weren't eligible for PUA and SARA and other things. The governor needed to govern, but instead he took advantage of his position. We have $500 million that was given to us in ARPA funding. And this body tried to utilize that money to ensure that it was going to be spent properly, to ensure that that money was appropriated. Unfortunately, that bill, sponsored by Chairman of Ways and Means, Donald Manglona, and several of us, did not pass the Senate. It was killed. I wish it had. Because, Madam Chair and colleagues, something that has not really been brought up during this investigation is what is being used with this money. Now, this may not be part of this investigation, but it is a concern. We have seen companies that have enriched themselves, have made a ton of money with the governor's approval, while the rest of our people suffer. We've seen a governor who feels it's okay to have a piggery, a large piggery, by the way, since November of 2015, and have taxpayers pay for it, to fund it, a commercial piggery. And that includes all of his lavish trips, which he was warned about. And if the governor is to come here or later on say that he knew nothing about it, would that really be truthful? Well, we won't know because we don't have him coming in to answer our questions, unfortunately. All of our questions. I am frustrated. I am tired of the doublespeak. And this body has done its very best to get to the truth of all of these matters. Madam Chair, colleagues, I appreciate, and I'm sorry, and also council, our legislative assistants, I cannot forget our councils. I almost feel like we are underdogs because we lack, in comparison, the resources that the governor has. But when you're doing the people's work, I don't feel we're the underdog. I feel we're doing the work of the people, and we will continue to do so together. There's been time and time, many times that the governor could have reached out to us, and he chose not to. I yield at this point, Madam Chair and colleagues, and I thank you for allowing me this time to speak.
Thank you, Representative Probst. I would like to say that the guardrails of democracy we once cherished have become dangerously unmoored under the current administration. Those who denounce Governor Torres's abuse of power may be dismissed as crying wolf or exaggerating. Governor Torres has crossed the constitutional line. What is especially troubling is that Governor Torres has routinely flouted the rule of law on American soil. We are governed by a democracy, and democracy is not a cloistered event. The actions of the governor are a testament of how far democracy has deteriorated in the Marianas. Governor Torres has insulted the democratic ideals and principles of men and women in uniform who have sworn to defend and protect our liberty, sovereignty, and freedom. This is not an issue I take lightly. So before Governor Torres further disrespects the ideals and principles that our brave men and women uphold, I proudly stand before them to defend their ideals. Our good friend Darren Jack gave his life for this Commonwealth. Loput Moss, Iprimuhu, Difunto Aswojin Lieto. Matay gikanay asagohu giza Iraq. Manmatay estisiha ni man manyanyadbi gimilitot. Put hafa. Put para ma-defendi. Jan ma-protehi ilinalota todos. Sin discrimination. Our honorable and brave men and women in uniform from the Sinamai have asked for nothing in return except to support their ideals and uphold those same beliefs. Our records reflect that the period just after Typhoon Solar, Governor Torres and Mrs. Diane Torres were traveling to and fro. Maeskapapazi iminasapit dyan iminakput gwini gitanota. This is very significant because this is while our Commonwealth was picking up the pieces of their homes without power and without water. For months, Governor Torres has been longing, yearning to clear his name. But when the time came to feature his testimony, he was a no-show. He rejected being put under oath to provide any explanation or responses to the JGO inquiries. This was his opportunity and he blew it. He has at his disposal Mr. Ross Garber, who was given a $150,000 contract. Mr. David Baines was given a $50,000 contract. And his in-house legal counsel, Mr. Gil Burnbrick, with a salary upwards of $60,000. Este na Committe ma-exisisa mono ilinangat na pinasensya dyan reasonable na aksyon sigun ilay siha. Ni para baintagi o negosyo dyan ni gobyerno con respeto para otro na ramas gobernamento siha. Lo i-gobyerno harinuncia todo este na negosasyon. Guiza za ni abogado siya ni emplea ni hita o mapapasi mas que 260,000 gisakan. Makontinua ma planta ligat impedimento ni defecto. Todo samzo man testigo ni este siya na tay preciso na detensyon ni haplalanta i-gobyerno gimenan este na Committe. Sin mas, zahu pa ako na bayo recognisa y honorable representante Christina Sablan.
Chair, before we recognize, privilege.
Please say your
I
privilege.
apologize,
first.
Representative Tina Sablan. And thank you, Madam Chair, for recognizing me. This is a very difficult road that the CNMI is facing and has been facing for the last couple of years. Governor Torres has had this opportunity to speak up a year and a half ago during the 21st legislature when we created this committee. That was the first straw of his opportunity to prove to the people that whatever we were looking at back in the 21st legislature and what we are looking at now in the 22nd legislature was false information and is an opportunity to fix what was wrong. There's been a lot of negative comments in the 21st and here in the 22nd legislature that there was witch hunting and information was being provided from elsewhere. In the 21st legislature, we validated those information. And for the first 6 months of the 22nd legislature, Good Chair and I would have our afternoon talks on the issues that were brought up in the 21st legislature and the potential opportunity of those documents being presented in the 22nd legislature for review whether it be the JGO committee or a special committee. And I was able to convince the chair at that time that a lot of the issues that were being brought up were defensible. But when the documents kept piling over and over from one binder to 3 binders to 5 binders to 3 boxes of documents, over 20 some thousand pages of documents to review, it became apparent that it was more of a habit of using up funds without touching your own personal monies to purchase or travel with your own goods. So for those out there in the community, I know I've been silent on many issues since the 21st, but those were not for bad reasons. Those were looking at documents and validifying every single document. This committee has taken that opportunity to review those documents on a daily basis. Almost 12 months since the first day Chair Selena Babauta and I had sat down and where she presented the first list of documents. It's difficult and it's not easy because we have familial relationships with those in the executive branch. Some we consider brothers, sisters, but for sure acquaintances and community members. So for those who have asked that this committee has been a waste of time and money and have suggested that we should get back to our jobs as legislators and say there are more important duties to attend to and to safeguard more important duties to safeguard public funds from waste of abuse. There's nothing more important than this right now. There's a history of a lot of abuses, and if we don't fix and understand the history of where we came from, we will never be able to provide for those after us. So, in the vernacular, para tori tau tauta yan nozung, ni masasangan na lastima isti, taza timonya isti na investigasyon, gizay gobyerno. Un año y mes, manahi oportunidad isti 21 na legislatura, pero alegla i afaman masasangan, za imbabazi petanya, pero tsogian no. Loti accepta ti atsogi. Pago ni seryoso za mano mona todo isti ni problema za mama presenta gi publiko. Adisidi hutsogi afa gi video niya presenta siya gano gi Facebook dan YouTube. Ti bonito, donklo na tayo respeto para isti na legislatura, iman mapus para todo'y mainay-nata, ni mo na siguro na guani na lota papay Estados Unidos. Ti libyano gina tempo pumadisidi. Lumanay oportunidad para ita ni man taptapti para tafarmanay ni edukasyon ni sinya ta presenta para man mamala siya na famagunta. So with that being said, Madam Chair, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, thank the members for hearing me out on a lot of the issues that was presented and how to defend it. Unfortunately, like I said, there's way too much to overcome the situation. And our people deserve the very best, and we cannot give them anything less. There's others after us, and if this will be the blueprint of what's to come in the future, we should continue on that route. I thank you for your time. Thank you to the viewing public. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Actal. At this time, I will recognize Representative Christina Sablan.
Thank you, Madam Chair and colleagues. Let's review the record with respect to our subpoena. We subpoenaed Governor Torres to appear on Friday, December 10th, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. pursuant to our investigatory powers under the law at Title I, Section 1301, to subpoena witnesses. He failed to appear. We offered to take the subpoena away and have him appear voluntarily later that same day, Friday, to testify under oath and pursuant to our powers under Title I, Section 1301, to obtain evidence or information under other lawful means. He failed to appear. We commend and appreciate all the other witnesses who received subpoenas and had the courage to appear before this body. All of them followed the law. All of them followed the Constitution. Even Ms. Frances de la Cruz appeared. We held her in contempt for refusing to answer questions, but she at least appeared. Governor Torres has failed to do even that. We even gave him one more chance, the opportunity to purge himself of contempt by appearing voluntarily and testifying under oath today, Tuesday, at 10:30 a.m. He has not done so. Madam Chair and colleagues, we have made every effort to engage in a process of negotiation and accommodation to get the information required for our fact-finding investigation without a legal battle between the branches. In discussions with the Governor's Council, we proposed the option to have the Governor appear voluntarily under conditions of mutual agreement and testify under oath. But his only reply was the unserious and insulting suggestion to speak without any oath to ensure the truthfulness of his answers with only one member of this committee. That would leave us with no quorum to even constitute committee action. At this point, Madam Chair and colleagues, Governor Torres's reckless failure to comply has left us with no choice. And we do not take lightly our action today to enforce our lawful subpoena and hold him accountable for violating it. I therefore move to vote to hold Governor Torres in contempt for failing to appear or provide any testimony at 10:30 a.m. on Friday, December 10, 2021, in reckless disregard of our lawful subpoena.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Representative Sablan. A motion has been made to hold Governor Ralph De Leon Guerrero Torres in contempt of a lawfully backed subpoena to appear on Friday, December 10th, 2021. The motion has been seconded. Are there any objections on the motion?
Ready.
Are there any discussions on the motion? There are no discussions or objections to the motion. I hereby recognize the LA, Mr. Cam Nicholas, to please call the vote.
Representative Vicente C. Camacho.
Yes.
Representative Richard T. Lizama.
Yes.
Representative Donald M. Manglona.
Yes.
Representative Christina Sablan.
Yes.
Representative Edwin Propst.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Blas Jonathan BJT Attal.
Yes.
Madam Chair Selena R. Babalta.
Yes.
Madam Chair, all 7 members present voted yes.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholas. With all 7 members voting yes to hold Governor Ralph De Leon Guerrero Torres in contempt, the motion carries. Yeah. At this time, we would like to take a short 5-minute recess. Good morning. We are back from recess. And prior to the recess, all 7 members voted to hold Governor Ralph D. Leon Guerrero Torres in contempt of a lawfully served subpoena on himself. To be clear, this contempt recommendation is not about the breakdown of negotiations or communications between this committee and the executive branch. It is not based on good faith disagreements over privilege assertions. Rather, it is about Governor Torres's failure to comply with a constitutionally backed subpoena and his intentional disregard for the rule of law. This alone justifies contempt findings because he has refused to appear to provide any testimony under oath. At this time, can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting? Motion has been made to adjourn this meeting and it has been seconded. Are there any discussions on the motion? There are no discussions. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. It is now 11:32 and this meeting is hereby adjourned.